I declined to co-sign a loan for my son-in-law, who had treated my finances like a personal ATM for far too long. My daughter, whom I had supported endlessly, looked me in the eye and said, "Then don't expect to stay here much longer." That was the final straw. I packed up and walked away. Later, they came asking me to return. Before we go on, please subscribe and drop a comment with your location. The plates clattered softly as I laid them around the old mahogany table. March in Seattle still carried a chill, but the dining room was warm, uncomfortably so. Mark had that spark again, the one where his eyes gleamed like a child seeing snow for the first time. He was glued to his tablet. "Alex, perfect timing," he beamed, turning the screen toward me. Graphs and charts pulsed in soft blue light. "I've been building something amazing." Sarah stopped mid-stride, mashed potatoes in hand. "Go ahead, show him love." I kept setting the table, my movements second nature after half a decade under their roof. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the family photos on the sideboard. Sarah in her wedding dress, the kids' graduations, holiday snapshots. 15 years of moments and 15 years of financial lifelines. "This is it, Alex," Mark said, voice brimming with that entrepreneurial conviction I'd come to recognize. "Our platform's ready, beta-tested and solid. We just need funding for servers and workspace." He angled the screen again. $200,000 flashed alongside return projections and market data. My chest tightened. "You've always backed us," he added, leaning in. "But this time, it's not charity, it's a stake in our future. Sarah's, the kids." My hand froze, fork hovering above the last placemat. "Mark." My voice came out rough. "I've been covering costs for 15 years. Sarah's head jerked up. "Dad, this is everything to us. I'm done being your bank." The silence was instant and thick. Sarah's bowl quivered slightly in her hands. Mark's screen faded to black. Color drained from Sarah's face before blooming back in furious red. When she spoke, it was ice. "Then maybe you shouldn't expect to live here anymore." The fork dropped from my hand, clinking against the floor. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." She slammed the bowl onto the table, mashed potatoes sloshing. "If you're not contributing to this family's growth, maybe you don't belong in it." Mark reached for her. "Sarah, come on." "No," she snapped, pulling away. "I'm tired of pretending. We took him in for 5 years, and now when we need real support, he bails." The room spun slightly. Just under 2 years ago, after Helen passed, Sarah had begged me to move in. "Family supports family," she'd said. And now, those same lips were pushing me out. "Sarah, please." My voice sounded cracked, far older than my 75 years. "I don't want to hear it." She turned back to the kitchen, her heels clicking like gunshots on tile. "Dinner's going cold." I stood there staring at the incomplete table setting. The fallen fork caught the light from the chandelier. Mark cleared his throat and mumbled something about emails before disappearing down the hall. Climbing the stairs, my legs felt shaky. Behind me, Sarah made her anger known with crashing pans and slamming drawers. Upstairs, I closed my door and sat heavily on the edge of the bed. The framed photos on my nightstand stared back. Sarah at prom, with newborn Emma. Last Christmas hugging Mark. When did generosity become expectation? When did helping turn into duty? Beyond my window, Seattle's skyline shimmered in the dark. Somewhere out there, families were sharing meals, ones not measured in dollars or conditions. Time passed. The house fell mostly silent, except for muffled arguing downstairs. Sarah and Mark. The tension in their voices was unmistakable. At 9:17 p.m., I finally stood up. The filing cabinet in the corner had been my loyal companion since Helen's death. I'd always found order comforting. Military habits, decades of discipline. Every document, neatly filed. I pulled open the bottom drawer with a creak. The thickest folder was labeled Sarah and Mark. My handwriting meticulous. Inside, the evidence, statements, checks, transfers. A history of help that had somehow turned into debt. Their wedding came first. June 2009. The receipts, venue, food, photographer, $50, 000. She deserves her dream day, I told Helen. I punched numbers into the calculator. $200 a month for 5 years of mortgage top-ups. $252,000. Then came the car loans, Sarah's SUV, Mark's sedan. Insurance payments when their credit failed. Photos of each check, Helen's habit. Always keep records. Emma's college tuition. $15,000 last semester. John's trade school. $8,000. Holidays, repairs, flooded basements. Medical costs when Mark lost his coverage. Their Hawaii trip. Sarah's emergency dental surgery. My fingers moved over the calculator like a pianist playing a lament. $300,000. Then $350,000. Then $400,000. I reached for the phone. The Wells Fargo support line picked up quickly. This is Alex Miller. I'd like to stop all transfers to the account ending in 4739. Certainly, Mr. Miller. May I ask the reason for stopping them? My reflection in the window looked back, gray hair, worn eyes, but a steadiness in my jaw I hadn't felt in years. I'm done being overlooked. Yes, sir. I'll process that now. 20 minutes later, I ended the call and glanced at my final total. $487,000. Nearly $500,000 in 15 years. Gone. Helen's policy, my pension, our retirement nest egg. All poured into a daughter who expected more. At the bottom of the folder, power of attorney papers. Sarah's name in clean type. I'd signed them 3 years ago. Recovering from knee surgery. For emergencies. I fed the pages into the shredder. Authority turned into confetti. For the first time that day, I smiled. Tomorrow, everything would shift. But tonight, I'd rest well. The laptop screen glowed. I searched Seattle rentals. Downtown views. Quiet blocks near transit. Places where the only obligation would be to myself. The house creaked. I barely noticed. I was already gone. By Friday morning, sunlight spilled into a small Seattle apartment, casting neat lines across hardwood. Kate Anderson, the real estate agent, motioned toward the kitchen. Perfect for one, Mr. Miller. Walking distance from Pike Place, bus access nearby. I nodded. Her words were background noise. The space felt calm. My own. There's a park across the street. Residents like to read there, she added. Very serene after a hectic lifestyle. I'll take it. She hesitated. Wouldn't you like to see the bedroom? Go over the lease. I need peace more than square footage. I pulled out my checkbook. First and last month's rent. Security deposit. 2 hours later, I was back outside the Bellevue home. Sarah's car was gone. She'd be at the cafe until late. Mark's sedan was also missing. Probably at his shared workspace, chasing dreams. The key felt heavier as I unlocked the door. I walked through the house swiftly, knowing what was mine. The photo albums from my marriage, mine. The medals from my dresser, mine. The leather recliner Helen bought me for my 70th? That could stay. They'd gotten used to it being there. The piano in the living room had once been Helen's treasure. After the funeral, Sarah claimed it, saying it would be perfect for when Emma had kids one day. Let her hold on to that fantasy. The movers came at noon, 3 guys, 1 truck, barely squeezing into the driveway. The foreman, a young man with kind eyes, approached me with care. Mr. Miller, we've got you scheduled for a 1-bedroom move. Senior discounts applied. Correct. I handed him a handwritten inventory. Anything with blue tape goes. Everything else stays. He pointed to the piano. What about this one, sir? It's a beauty. I stood by the window, watching them load my desk, my books, the memories I'd packed neatly. Leave it. That belongs to someone else now. The hardest thing to part with was Helen's jewelry box. Sarah had urged me to keep it, saying maybe one day I'd want to pass the pieces on to Emma or a future daughter-in-law. But if those conversations ever happened, they'd be on my terms now. I left a plain white envelope on the kitchen table. 1 sheet of paper. 2 paragraphs. Sarah and Mark, I've moved out. The keys are on the counter. I've also stopped all financial support. You wanted freedom from my expectations. Now you have freedom from my help. Don't reach out unless you're ready to apologize. My new address will remain private until then. Alex. My phone rang while I was signing lease paperwork. Sarah's name lit up the screen. Dad, Dad, what's going on? Your things are gone. You left a note. I moved out. You can't just leave. This is your home. Mark's voice jumped in over speakerphone. Alex, let's talk. We can figure something out. About the startup, we'll find someone else to invest. You told me not to expect to stay much longer, I replied, calm and steady. So I didn't. I was upset, Sarah said. I didn't mean. Don't look for me. Don't call unless you're ready to talk about respect. I ended the call and shut off the phone. Outside my new window, Seattle's skyline began to glow. Tomorrow I'd explore my neighborhood. Maybe find a quiet cafe or check out the library. Tonight I'd order pizza. Eat slowly, in peace, with no expectations, except tipping the delivery guy. The revolving doors at First National Bank ushered me into marble floors and quiet voices. Monday morning downtown meant business, and I felt ready. My 9:30 appointment with James Clark was still minutes away. I always arrived early. Preparation was my new form of control. Mr. Miller, James greeted, standing from behind a polished desk. Mid-40s, maybe, but his tailored suit radiated authority. I've pulled up your account, he said as we sat in his office, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows. I need to cancel the $4,200 monthly transfer, I said. He looked up, brows arching. That's been active for 5 years straight. Yes, and I'd like to see the full total. He typed quickly. The numbers scrolled fast. His expression tightened as the sum rose. Whoa, he muttered. Sorry, just wow. It totals $487,000 over 15 years. That includes mortgage payments, emergency funds, tuition. They can handle their house now, I said, final and firm. He printed the summary. Warm pages, sliding from the printer. Line after line. Each one a small piece of my independence handed over in exchange for peace that never came. By noon, I sat across from Robert Fisher, 3 blocks away. His assistant had squeezed me in when I mentioned asset protection and estate planning in the same sentence. Lawyers make room for urgency, especially when it pays well. At your age, asset protection is smart, Robert said, spreading documents like a general preparing for war. I want what's left shielded from any claims my daughter might make. He paused, pen above his pad. Family disputes can get messy. Best defense is having structure in place before trouble hits. We spent 2 hours building legal barriers. Nevada trusts, beneficiary designations, homestead protections. Emma's name filled the forms as the primary heir. She had always been honest. Never asked for more than I offered. Once the trust is filed, she has full access, Robert explained. Your daughter can't touch it, not even through court. At 3 o'clock, the notary arrived, a no-nonsense woman who checked each signature with military focus. Every stamp echoed like a bolt sliding shut. My financial defenses were nearly airtight. I walked back to my apartment, carrying a leather folder packed with legal copies. It weighed less than the mortgage I'd been quietly covering all these years. As I reached my floor, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Dad, it's Mark. We need to talk. Coming by at 7. I deleted it. Let him come. I had legal documents now, and something better. The ability to say no without fear. The late sun poured through my window as I filed the trust paperwork. Everything was now protected, sorted, and mine alone. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Mark's distorted face appeared, arranged into practiced contrition. In his hand, yellow roses. Store-bought piece. Alex, he said, stepping in uninvited, eyes scanning my modest space. Nice place. Very minimalist. I took the flowers, set them on the counter without comment. Sarah send you. She's upset. She didn't mean everything she said. He settled on my couch like he owned it. You know how emotional she can be. You leaving really hurt her. Sit down, Mark. I chose the chair opposite. When's the last time you remember my birthday? He blinked. What? My birthday. When was the last time you recalled it without Sarah reminding you? He waved a hand. Come on, this isn't about. February 14th, I said. Hard to forget, right? But you've managed it for 12 straight years. Alex, this is about the startup. It's a real opportunity. I stood and looked out the window. His BMW was parked illegally below, hazards blinking like some imagined crisis. Hospital last spring, I said. Knee surgery. 3 nights in recovery. Sarah came once with flowers. You sent a card. He leaned forward, voice tightening. What's your point? This is about the business, not the past. $200,000, I said, turning to face him. For someone who forgets I exist unless he needs money. That's not an investment. That's fantasy. He stood defensive now. Fine. You want truth. Sarah and I have carried this family. Hosting, organizing, keeping you busy since Helen died. You owe us. My only debt is to peace and quiet. Mark paced, frustration spilling over. You can't just cut us off. We have commitments. We've made plans. Find a new benefactor. You'll regret this, he snapped. When we're successful and you're here alone. I'm already alone. The difference is, I made the choice. Mark grabbed his jacket from the arm of the couch, his movements tight with irritation. This isn't finished, Alex. Family doesn't just vanish because you're having some sort of senior episode. He slammed the door so hard the frame shuddered. From the window, I watched him stomp toward his BMW. Phone already out before he even reached the door. The roses he brought still sat on my counter, wrapped in plastic from whichever store was closest and cheapest. I tossed them in the trash as headlights swept through the window. A silver sedan pulled in behind where Mark's car had been Sarah. She remained in the driver's seat, phone to her ear. I imagined her getting the full briefing from Mark. Tomorrow would be her turn. Tonight, I'd reheat some leftover pizza and watch the news without interruption. Friday afternoon, Sarah showed up with all the predictability of a matinee performance. I'd spotted her driving by twice since Tuesday, casing the building like a private investigator. Dad, she stood at the door holding a white pastry box, smiling like she'd rehearsed it. Brought your favorite, apple pie from Morrison's. The scent of cinnamon and sentimental manipulation followed her inside. She was dressed just so. Light blue sweater, natural makeup. The uniform for sympathy, not dominance. Just like Mom used to make, she added, placing the box on my counter with care. Remember how she'd bake one every Sunday? I remembered Helen burning more than she ever served, but saying that would throw off Sarah's carefully planned script. Coffee, that'd be nice. We performed the familiar dance, measuring, filling, setting out plates we both knew wouldn't be touched. Sarah took a seat on the couch with casual precision, purse at her side for quick tissue access. I was thinking about when you taught me to ride a bike, she began wistfully. You ran beside me for blocks even though your back was hurting. That was 40 years ago. You were always there. School plays, graduation, my wedding. Her eyes shimmered on cue. You've been the best father a girl could ask for. The coffee maker hissed and clicked. I poured the cups, added cream to hers like I'd done since she was a child. When did you last visit me in the hospital after my surgery? Her performance stuttered. Dad, I had work. The kids were struggling. Things were crazy. Mark visited once. You sent flowers. That's not fair. Emma came up from Tacoma twice. John called every day. Her bottom lip quivered, a perfect mix of emotion and timing. Are you punishing me for being overwhelmed? I'm choosing to live on my own terms. Then came the tears, real enough, but timed too well. We'll lose the house without your help. The kids will have nowhere to go. Mark's business is our only shot if we move fast. Maybe it's time you found full-time work instead of part-time gigs. The crying stopped. Anger surfaced. I do plenty. I manage our home, support Mark, raise the kids. Emma is 20. John's 22. What kids? You're being heartless, she said, reaching for tissues. Mom would be devastated by the man you've become. The man who raised you is tired of being used. She stood with all the weight of self-righteous indignation, left the untouched pie on the counter like a symbol of my cruelty. Fine, but when you're sitting here alone, wondering why your family isn't around, remember this moment. After she left, I opened the box. The pie was immaculate. Crust golden, vents cut with care. A professional attempt at manufactured nostalgia. 20 minutes later, a text arrived. John, Grandpa, can I visit Sunday? Mom and Dad are acting weird. I smiled as I typed back. Yes. Come hungry. At least someone seemed interested in me, not my wallet. Sunday. John showed up like he owned the place. Still had the spare key I gave him years ago. But he knocked anyway. A small courtesy, I noted. Hey, Grandpa. He stepped in, glancing around the apartment with poorly hidden judgment. Mom says you moved into a shoebox. His jeans sagged, boots unlaced, flannel shirt creased from sleep. At 22, he still dressed like a 17-year-old burnout. Coffee? I asked, heading for the kitchen. Sure. He flopped onto the couch, limbs everywhere. Nice place. Very clean. The coffee maker gurgled while I watched his reflection in the window. Same sharp jaw as Sarah, same restless twitch as Mark, but Helen's soft eyes. So, Grandpa, I need a favor. His tone was rehearsed. $3,000. Credit card a mess. I poured the coffee, added cream like Helen used to for him. When do you plan on paying it back? I'll get a job soon. Something with cars. I'm good with engines. I pulled a business card from my wallet. Frank Patterson had given it to me weeks ago. $15 an hour. Benefits after 90 days. He needs help. John's face folded into a familiar pout. I don't want to work for some guy I don't know. I need quick money to fix this. Then I'll figure stuff out. How did you rack up the debt? Just normal things. Food, gas, helping friends. A few nights out. Some games. His posture shrunk. You're being stingy. You always helped before. Remember when I needed money for trade school? I remember paying $8,000 for welding classes you never finished. John shot up, pacing. That was different. I had other opportunities. Like sleeping till noon? You don't get it. Our generation has it harder. Everything costs more. Wages suck. This is for your own good. I held out the card. Steady job. Real skills. Pride. He slapped it out of my hand. It landed on the floor. I don't need a lecture. I need $3,000. No. The word stopped him like a slap. He stared at me, stunned. Fine. Don't expect me to come around anymore. Don't expect me to care when you're old and alone. I'm already old, John, and I'm learning to prefer alone over exploited. He slammed the door so hard it shook the neighbors' wind chimes. From my window, I watched him march away, phone to his ear, probably calling Sarah to report back. My phone rang before he reached the corner. Emma. I hesitated, then answered. Grandpa. Her voice sounded far older than 20. Glad you picked up. It's chaos here. Mom's screaming, blaming you for everything. I settled in my chair, watching John vanish from view. What's Mark say about the genius startup? He sold the BMW yesterday. Says the bank's ready to take the house if they miss another payment. A warmth crept into my chest. Justified. Deserved. 15 years of transfers, and they couldn't make it 2 weeks. Mom's working double shifts at the cafe. She's exhausted. They fight all the time now. Wednesday morning, I walked through Myrtle Edwards Park, ignoring Sarah's string of missed calls. The March sun felt warmer than usual. Or maybe it was just the feeling of freedom on my skin. Routine had become my comfort. Coffee at 7. Paper till 8. A walk by 9:30. No frantic messages. No guilt. The man who fed pigeons near the sculpture garden gave me a nod. We'd come to understand each other. 2 men who'd chosen simplicity over drama. You look lighter lately, he said, scattering crumbs. Learning to live for myself. Smart. Family will bleed you dry if you let him. At home, my phone buzzed again. 17 unread messages. Sarah's desperation had been building all day. Dad, please call me. We can figure this out. The bank needs $8,400 immediately or foreclosure begins. Mark's trying to get a loan, but his credit is a mess. I'm working double shifts. My feet are killing me. The neighbors are whispering. It's humiliating. You're tearing this family apart over money. Please, just this once, help us catch up. I deleted the messages without replying and logged into my online banking. My balances looked strong, protected behind legal structures Sarah couldn't access. Robert Fisher had done exceptional work, securing what remained. Emma called during dinner. I was enjoying leftover soup, appreciating the forgotten luxury of a hot meal that stayed warm until the last spoonful. Mom collapsed at work, Emma said. They said it's exhaustion. She's okay, but her voice cracked. Grandpa, I know you're angry, but seeing her like this. Emma, your mother made her choices. I offered boundaries. She chose manipulation instead. John came over today asking for help with rent. Mom yelled at him for 30 minutes about responsibility. Good, I said. Sounds like she's starting to understand. Downtown Seattle sparkled through my kitchen window. Somewhere out there, my daughter was pushing herself beyond reason to preserve a life my money had made possible. My son-in-law was finding out that charm doesn't cover bills. My grandson was finally facing adulthood with no safety net. I should have felt remorse. Instead, I felt free. My evening unfolded as usual. News at 7, reading until 9, bed soon after, with no family drama weighing me down. The apartment Sarah once called cramped felt perfectly suited for a man who'd spent 5 years compromising for others. Just after 10 p.m., movement outside caught my attention. Through the window, I saw figures gathering near the building's entrance. Mark's outline was easy to identify, his gestures sharp, insistent. A few more shapes emerged in the glow of the streetlights. They weren't just loitering. They were preparing. Lights off. I watched from the shadows, counting. 5, maybe 6. More than just Mark and Sarah. They moved with intent. Mark led. Sarah followed. John shuffled behind. 2 older figures brought up the rear. Mark's parents, Thomas and Linda Brown. Emma walked behind them, her hesitation obvious even from the 4th floor. I'd met the Browns only a handful of times. Thomas, a retired factory man who thought grit could solve anything except his son's aimlessness. Linda, whose knack for guilt-tripping was clearly inherited. They entered the lobby. A minute later, loud knocking shook my door. Alex, open the door. We need to talk. Thomas's voice had the force of someone who expected obedience. Through the peephole, 6 faces waited like a poorly cast intervention. Mark clutched another bouquet. Sarah held tissues. John slouched. The Browns stood at either side like backup vocalists to an uncomfortable family chorus. You're tearing us apart. Thomas barked when I didn't answer. Mark's trying to build something here. I opened the door but stayed in the frame, blocking entry. Your son treated me like a bank account for 15 years. Linda stepped forward, voice sharp and familiar. Family responsibility, Alex. You should want to help the next generation get a leg up. I helped them form a habit of dependency. I'm correcting that mistake. 6 adults in the hallway made the space feel tight. Mark gestured behind me. Can we come in? This isn't a hallway conversation. No. Sarah stepped closer, mascara already streaking. Dad, I know you're hurt, but this has gone too far. We could lose everything. Maybe you should have considered that before telling me not to get too comfortable in your house. I was mad. I didn't mean. You meant it. All of you did. I was useful when you needed cash, disposable when you didn't. Thomas scowled. You're being selfish. At your age, you should be thinking about legacy. My legacy is teaching responsibility, not fueling failure. John finally mumbled from the back. Grandpa, this is mean. You never used to act like this. Leave him alone, Emma snapped, her voice firm. None of you cared until he stopped handing out money. When did any of you visit him in the hospital? Remember his birthday without prompting? Linda turned on Emma, her tone saccharine and sharp. Honey, this is adult business. You don't understand. I understand that you're all cornering an old man because he won't bail you out again. The hallway erupted. Mark insisted on respect for his parents. Sarah sobbed about losing their home. Thomas shouted about loyalty. Linda guilt everyone. John whined. Only Emma stayed quiet, slightly removed, eyes steady on mine. Enough. My voice sliced through the noise. I gave Sarah and Mark $487,000 over 15 years. For weddings, mortgages, crises, dreams. What did I get in return? Forgotten birthdays. No hospital visits. More demands. That's family, Thomas argued. You support each other. Support is mutual. This was exploitation. I stepped back, hand on the door. Don't contact me again unless it's to apologize. Emma, you're always welcome. The rest of you, solve your own problems. I shut the door. Voices continued on the other side. Mark's parents scolding Sarah, Sarah crying, John grumbling, Emma defending me. At the kitchen window, I waited. 20 minutes later, the group exited to the sidewalk, still arguing. Emma paused, looked up at my window and waved. The others piled into Thomas's truck and drove off. Emma lingered a moment longer before heading to the bus stop. Inside, peace returned. Not emptiness, intention. We're setting up an irrevocable trust with your granddaughter as the sole beneficiary, Robert Fisher said, laying out documents under April sunlight. Here's the Nevada trust section, bulletproof creditor protection. If your daughter sues, the assets stay safe. I signed each page with unwavering hands. Since March, I'd learned the value of walls, ones that guilt and manipulation couldn't climb. No more shared access. No more emergencies. Robert suggested diversifying offshore. Cayman Islands banking adds another layer of security. By lunch, I'd insured my peace against future storms. That afternoon, Kate Anderson and I resumed the house hunt. Kirkland was quieter than the city. The lake cottage called to me the moment I stepped onto the deck. 2 bedrooms, garden space, wide views of Lake Washington. Previous owner was a vet, Kate said. Left it to his daughter, but she wants a fast sale. I made a full-price offer, no conditions. It was accepted the same day. That evening, I attended the Veterans Dinner at the Bethos Center. Conversations flowed. Men who understood resilience and reinvention. You look at peace, Frank Patterson noted, the same man whose job John once refused. Cut myself out of the chaos, I said. Smart move. Family'll bleed you dry. Mary Johnson served dessert, elegant, silver-haired, warm-eyed. I haven't seen you here before, she said, offering pie. Just started coming. I'm Alex. Mary. I volunteer here twice a week. Teaching used to keep me busy. Retirement needs rhythm. We talked until the janitor stacked chairs. She taught school for 37 years, raised 2 independent kids, and never relied on others to define her worth. Maybe coffee sometime. I asked. I'd enjoy that. 3 weeks later, the cottage was mine. I moved in with the ease of someone who'd learned to live light. Mornings belonged to the deck, evenings to the lake. Mary visited the second Saturday with homemade cookies and genuine curiosity. We watched sailboats glide and shared stories over coffee. Freedom feels radical at our age, she said, accepting a refill. I forgot what it felt like. The phone rang as sunset painted the lake in amber. Emma. Grandpa. You're not going to believe it. Mary and I prepped salmon on the deck. August light soft around us. Tell me. Mom filed for divorce. Says she finally saw through Dad's big dreams. Mary raised a brow, but kept seasoning vegetables. She never needed every detail to understand. I'm sorry, Emma, I said, but we all face the results of our choices. She's working 2 jobs now. 70 hours a week. Dad moved in with Grandma Linda. The startup's dead. He couldn't manage money at all. The irony settled in, rich and sharp. Mark, the would-be entrepreneur, undone by reality. Sarah, who once threatened to throw me out, now living the independence she demanded. John called. Emma continued. Asked for your number. I paused. What did he say? He's been working with Frank for 2 months. Wants to apologize. And thank you. Mary smiled and gently squeezed my shoulder. She'd heard the full story. She understood. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. John. Grandpa, I hope you don't hang up. I'm here. I wanted to say thank you, and I'm sorry. Frank's teaching me real skills. I'm saving up for my own place. That's wonderful, John. I get it now. Why you said no. I would have wasted it. Frank says I've got talent, but I need discipline too. After we hung up, Mary and I sat watching the water, salmon cooking behind us. A blue heron stood near the shore, still and patient, like I had learned to be. You saved that boy from becoming his father, Mary said. Tough love is still love. We were planning a September getaway, my first real vacation in 5 years without interruption. Mary had mapped trails, reserved a cabin, arranged plant sitting with her neighbor. Sarah texted again. I mentioned while clearing dishes. Wants to talk. Are you ready for that? I'm ready to hold my boundaries. Mary's kitchen skills matched my grilling. We'd settled into a rhythm that felt earned, not expected. She lived 3 miles away, but often stayed over, contributing without demanding, adding to my peace instead of taking from it. The Veterans Center became our Thursday tradition. Mary helped younger vets through teaching instincts. I shared strategies for surviving the long game. You know, she said one night while drying plates, I never thought I'd find this again. A partner who gets it. I didn't either, I said, glancing out the kitchen window. Headlights turned into my driveway. Sarah's silver sedan, the one I'd helped her finance 3 years ago, pulled to a stop. Speaking of family, Mary said softly, following my gaze. Thanksgiving morning found us preparing dinner, not for those bound by blood, but for the family we'd chosen. Emma was due from Tacoma at 2, John at 3, bringing homemade dinner rolls from his new place. The kitchen filled with the scent of roasting turkey, seasoned stuffing, and something deeper. Contentment built on mutual respect, not obligation. Emma texted, she's bringing pumpkin pie, Mary announced, checking the bird's progress with the skill of someone who had managed holiday meals for decades. John's eager to show us pictures of his new apartment, I said, setting out my grandmother's china, dishes that had survived war, relocation, and family fractures, now laid out to honor celebration, not expectation. Our preparations were interrupted by an abrupt, urgent knock. Through the peephole, Sarah's face appeared drawn and weary, years older than the last time I'd seen her. She wore clothes I hadn't seen in 2 years and carried herself like someone who had nothing left to lose. Dad, please, she said. I need to talk. Mary stepped beside me, her presence steady but non-intrusive. For months together had taught us how to meet conflict side by side, while still honoring each other's boundaries. I opened the door but stood firmly in the frame. Hello, Sarah. I lost the apartment. Got evicted last week. I'm staying at a motel, but I can't keep up with it. Her voice trembled. Please, Dad, just this once. Help me with first month's rent and the deposit. $5,000. I swear I'll pay it back. I love you, Sarah, I said, voice steady. But offering help without accountability won't change anything. She pushed past me into the living room, eyes scanning the furniture, the lake view, the visible calm and order she once expected from me without cost. This, she said bitterly, is what you picked over your daughter. A cozy home while I sleep in motels. I chose to stop enabling choices that hurt us both. Mary stepped forward, voice calm but firm. Your father gave you 15 years of support, Sarah. Maybe now it's your turn to support yourself. Sarah's tone rose sharply. And who exactly are you to lecture me about my own family? I'm someone who learned to stand on her own after losing her husband. Your father is giving you that same opportunity. This is heartless. Mom would never allow this. The name landed with weight, but I prepared for it. Your mother would want you to be strong. She'd be devastated to see how dependency has changed you. Sarah crumpled onto the couch, sobbing. Not for show this time, but from raw exhaustion. I don't know how to live like this. I never have. You're 48, Sarah. It's time to learn. As she stepped out, Emma arrived. They passed in the driveway, exchanging only the briefest glance. Emma entered with pumpkin pie in her hands and quiet awareness in her eyes. She asked me to convince you to help her, Emma said, placing the pie on the counter. And what did you say? That you've already done more than enough. Maybe hitting bottom is what she needs to learn what most people already know. An hour later, John arrived, dinner rolls in hand, a phone full of photos of his modest apartment. His face held the calm satisfaction of someone building something on his own terms. "Grandpa," he said, "I saw Mom leaving. She looked upset. She's starting to learn what responsibility feels like." "Good," Mary said. "Real love sometimes means letting people face the outcome of their choices." We gathered at the table, Mary, Emma, John, and me, for people united by trust, not transactions. The turkey was tender, the talk flowed easily, and the gratitude was genuine. During dessert, my phone rang. Sarah. I looked at her name on the screen, then at the faces around my table. People who wanted me here, not for what I could give, but for who I was. People who shared their lives, not their demands. I silenced the phone and set it aside. "More pie, anyone?" Outside, Lake Washington shimmered in the amber tones of the setting sun. Inside, the peace was undisturbed. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, but earned. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching.